Hey there. Today I want to share a few thoughts about how I got into human-centered design through participatory architecture. So if you've been following along, I met my wife in Israel. She was getting a bit of time away from the computer screen after studying architecture in London and just wanted to learn how to build with her hands. So we were working on a straw bale house project in the desert. And the first conversation we had was about going to India to design and build classrooms for children with special needs. And we ended up doing it. It was amazing. It was the hardest project that I've ever done. It was really intense and in many regards a complete and total failure. But there was this one key learning about how to approach the design process that I took from it and that I ended up transforming into a love for digital design and user experience design, design thinking, behavior design. It sort of started me on this path for thinking about doing things in a completely different way than is traditional and commonplace. And so my wife Sophie introduced me to the concept of participatory architecture by describing that the most common architectural process is one that is very concept driven, whereby a group of people sit in a room, often with a drawing board or a computer, and throw up some sketches and produce some very high level ideas. And she was studying at a university called the AA, the Architectural Association in London. And it was very concept driven. And her design partner, this Norwegian architect named Alex, were experimenting with a participatory design process whereby the participants in the design would actually have input in the process. So instead of having this long design up front phase where you would then open the building and give people access to it and see what they thought, you'd have this incremental evaluation of your design by bringing people into the process and seeing what they thought along the way. And now this, in essence, is the lean startup method, and it's agile development, and it's human-centered design, and it's being applied. This kind of thinking of short iterative feedback loops is being applied to all sorts of disciplines. But it is relatively radical in the world of architecture, or at least it was back in 2012 when I first discovered it. And it's amazing how hard it is to do well, but how influential it can be when you give people a voice, when you take the children of a school and their teachers and even their parents, and you invite them to shape the space in which they will learn together. And you give them ownership over the idea, and you give them a relationship to the decisions. And you ask them what they need, and you respond to those needs with ideas that they can then test and give you feedback on. We had a really fun time in India engaging with the students, creating prototypes of the design, seeing what students thought, giving them chalk, allowing them to draw on the floor and express their ideas, to have window frames and show placement of windows, and give them layouts that they could play with and move around furniture and test class settings and just see how things would work. And it was an amazing process to go through. And I don't want to go through the hardship and the failures of the project right now. But suffice it to say that initial experience with participatory design created this insatiable appetite for me to explore a kind of radical candor where you can separate your ego and yourself from your design and say, hey, this is all about learning. And talk to your customers or your clients or your users and say, hey, I'm not attached to this. This is all about you and what you need. This is not about me being right or getting credit or having less work to do. This is about you and your problems and what you need in this time. How can I make your life easier? How can I solve your pain points? How can I make a difference in your world? And I think actually that is the best place to start any project and any venture, is to say, who is this for? What are their problems? What assumptions are we making about them that we actually need to define and test? What activities can we run in order to test our assumptions in a scientific, experiment-driven way? it's not science in itself, and that, you know, you're not looking for statistical significance, but you're looking for a mixture of qualitative and quantitative feedback from real people testing out your ideas, getting things into the wild before they're finished, before you've spent months building it, and saying, what do you think? How can I improve? So this is really a methodology that I've applied to just about every dimension of my life, and I found incredibly fruitful. I've learned how to apply this to my own life decisions, how to break down really big career decisions into prototypes and to test them with myself as the participatory agent. I'm really fascinated to hear about how you are de-risking your projects by bringing your stakeholders and your users and your customers in, what kind of activities you're running, and how we can use this as a tool to make better products and better services. If you're not bringing people into the process early, I encourage you to do so. Just a little lesson I thought I'd share from my time in India. Thanks to my wife Sophie and to Alex for bringing this kind of design into my life. It's been transformative. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.